Many of you might have heard by now of Rock Cam Talk, which is a rock on a camera on TikTok. Essentially what's happening is someone has a rock at the end of their driveway and vehicles are driving over it and getting damaged. And so many of you have asked me to comment on it, respond to it, do a video on it. So here is that video. Welcome back to the show. So let's talk about Rock Cam Talk. This is a series of videos on TikTok where various drivers have rather carelessly, in my view, driven over this rock and caused damage to their vehicles. But before we get too far into it, let's take a look at one of these videos itself. So you can see the rock here in the distance on the edge of the driveway. But even before we play the video, you can see that this rock is well and truly on the driveway, albeit on the very edge of the driveway. And this is obviously a curved road, and presumably, as you'll find out in a moment, vehicles like to turn around at this point and use this driveway to do so. The owner of the property has clearly got very annoyed at people using their driveway to turn around and decided to put this rock on the end to deter people from turning around on their driveway. But as I said, we'll talk about more about that in just a little moment. Let's watch the video. So here comes one unsuspecting vehicle trying to turn around straight over the rock, gets stuck under the front of the vehicle. They reverse back and clearly it's dislodged some part of the vehicle underneath, causing some damage. They pull forward again. Somebody clearly realizing there's damage done to the vehicle, getting out to have a look. Fairly large rock. This is not a pebble we're talking about here. This is a fairly large rock, and obviously looking underneath the vehicle, see what the damage is and see what they can do about it. And that's it. So there's various videos like this, all very much the same. Vehicles driving over said rock, which, as I said, if we skip back to the beginning of that video here, you can see it's not an insignificant piece of stone. It's not a pebble. It is a fairly sizable piece. So what does the law say about this? Well, the obvious questions will be, is the person who owns the rock and the premises, are they liable to this driver or any driver that's driven over this rock and caused damage to their vehicle? Now, you might think of this therefore as being a trap if it's done deliberately, or is it merely there as a deterrent? Is it merely there as decoration? And is it the driver's responsibility to ensure they don't drive over said rock? And is it their own fault? These are the questions that we're asking. Now, in order to answer this question, there are a few pieces of legislation that are prevalent for this. Two main ones, in fact, the Occupiers Liability Act of 1957 and the Occupiers Liability Act of 1984. The principal difference between the two is one deals with visitors to the property and the other one broadly outlines the position vis-a-vis trespassers, people that are not supposed to be on the property. So if with that in mind, we move to a second slide and look at the piece of legislation, the 84 Act. The duty of occupiers to persons other than visitors, in other words, trespassers. What is the liability there? Well, the broad liability is that you cannot set a trap for your trespassers to cause an injury, because that would be wrong. That would be wrong in law. So under the Act, you have a limited duty to a trespasser. Owing by subsection 3, an occupier of a premises owes a duty to another not being the visitor in respect of such risks referred to in subsection 1, which is a duty to other persons other than visitors in respect of their risk of suffering an injury on the premises by reason of any danger due to the state of the premises or things done or omitted to be done on the premises. And if so, and then it goes on to talk about the duty. So ultimately, if your premises is in a dangerous state either because you just haven't made it safe, or by something that you've done to make it unsafe, and somebody suffers an injury, which is important, I'll come back to in a moment, then you have a duty to that person not being your visitor under this act. And so having that duty, if you are aware of the danger by subsection 3 reading here, if you are aware of that danger or have reasonable grounds to believe that the danger exists, and that such a person knows or has reasonable grounds to believe that another in the vicinity of the danger or may come into the vicinity of the danger, and the risk is one against which, in all the circumstances of the case, he may reasonably be expected to offer the other some protection. This is what the law says. So if you can and you should offer some protection against the danger, the risk of injury to somebody that is on, or you have reasonable grounds to believe will be in the vicinity of the danger on your premises, then you have a duty to offer that protection. This is reminiscent of law school days for your law degree, and is ultimately designed to protect trespassers against deliberate acts to cause injury against those trespassers. However, if we scroll down further, subsection 7 and 8 provide us some insight for ROCCAM. Under subsection 7, no duty is owed by virtue of this section to persons using the highway. And so if someone is using the highway, you don't owe a duty to them because they are on the highway. It's nothing to do with your property. And this section does not affect any duty owed to such persons. Subsection 8 further provides, where a person owes a duty, virtue of this section, he does not, by reason of any breach of this duty. So just pausing there, if you owe a duty to other persons, being your trespasser, to take some steps to prevent them from having an injury on your premises, there is no such breach of this duty or any liability in respect of any loss of or damage to property. Now, in the case of ROCCAM over here, this is quite clearly damage to property, because once the vehicle has driven over ROCCAM, not only is the vehicle on the highway, but any damage is to the vehicle. Now, this would be different if, let's say, ROCCAM were, let's say, BOMB cam, and were to blow up if such a vehicle were to drive over it. That is a different trap, and therefore causing an injury. But every case will be a case-by-case basis. On this case, with ROCCAM, this vehicle driving over the said rock, it is unlikely that this occupier, this premises owner-occupier, is going to have any liability towards this vehicle, because, for one, there is no duty owed to someone using the highway, and no breach of the duty in respect of loss or damage to property. So those are my views on ROCCAM. I will see if I can fish out a link to one of those videos and put it in the description below. In the meantime, if you find videos like this that you want me to comment on, I'll be happy to do so. I find it fun to do so, and in the meantime, make sure you like this video and subscribe. And as always, thank you for watching.